Okay, strategy 1A. Strat 1A is likely the most common exhaustion formation. Now, what do I mean by exhaustion formation? So as you can see, price made a push, breaking sell pressure at area of sensitivity. This is a zone. Same with this, same with that, same with this. So all these are essentially exhaustion formations because these are all completions of a push, correct? So everything we're going to be talking about is called an exhaustion formation. So when you see or hear exhaustion formation, this is what I mean. Okay, so strat 1 is likely the most common form of exhaustion formation. In the examples provided, we see that the trend is to the upside. Thus, we are only looking for entries to the upside. Now, if the trend was to the downside, we would be only looking for entries where? That's right, to the downside. Once price makes a push, breaking its demand zone, push breaking its zone to the upside, we see price begins a series of lower lows, creating a downtrend to form a resistance and new support. Characteristics of strat 1A. Usually completes a substantial push to the upside, meaning separation of its zone. Okay. Price will fail to break previous high or low. We'll go through that in a sec. Creating its first lower low, many times not even reaching previous high. Okay, and stop hunts happen roughly 40% of the time. So let's start with one, characteristic 1. Okay, so characteristic 1 means that there usually is some sort of decent separation. As you can see here, by pressure, okay, we had a push to the upside, some sort of consolidation and a continuational push. By pressure, broke sell pressure to the upside, and there's some decent separation from our zone. And this is important because there's multiple levels of sensitivity, and it's fair to say that price has broken those levels. So what's after a push to the upside? An exhaustion. Okay, so usually a characteristic of strat 1A, okay, the exhaustion formation of strat 1A is that there's decent separation of a zone. Okay, now what's characteristic 2? Okay, characteristic 2 is edit, undo, move. There we go. All right. Characteristic 2 is price will fail to break previous high or break previous low, in this case, previous high, creating its first lower low, okay? Many times not even reaching previous high. So what does that mean? We have a push. We have exhaustion. Here we have our first contact. What happened here? Do we see an impulse move reaching previous high? No, we do not. We see an impulse move reaching what's likely its Fibonacci area sensitivity before retesting the downside. Due to the fact that price failed to reach previous high, this tells us that this is likely a characteristic of strat 1A, that this is the formation of strat 1A, creating lower lows. And because we have lower lows, we've had an identified area of sensitivity that once we break that area of sensitivity, we know that this is the continuational move to the upside. So one of the characteristics is instead of making its way to previous high, and you'll see why this is important, price will usually find sell pressure at one of its fibs to make a lower low, telling us that this is a characteristic and likely a strat 1A exhaustion formation before a continuational push. And we can see that, right? So in this case, what makes this a valid entry? Okay, well, USD was at a positive 6.9, CAD was at a negative 4.7. So we know that this is a separation greater to 5. We'll come to that in a second. Okay, and as mentioned, we failed to see price making its way to previous high. We have an early injection of sell pressure. Okay, again, lower lows. We see a break of that lower low with the bullish engulfing, and then you're making your way to the upside. Okay, so this is strat 1A, where we have lower lows. Okay, now what's important? What's the most important characteristic and differential between strat 1A exhaustion formation and strat 1B exhaustion formation, which we're going to next? Okay, the characteristics is that this impulse move to the upside actually makes its way to previous high. Now, actually, before we go too far ahead, I want to talk to you about what this means. Okay. These are the different types of entries that we can see on these formations. Strat 1A, we wait for push, breaking to the upside, lower time frame price action, entry confirmation, completion at exhaustion before move to the upside. With strat 1B, Okay, if we're confident at the buy protection, we could have a buy limit order at the retest, which we'll go through, or we can enter at the break of previous high price action entry confirmation. Okay, so there's 2 entry points here on strat 1B exhaustion formation. Let's go to strat 1B. Okay.